One of the most common questions that I get is how do public speaking skills translate to the virtual environment? To answer that, I'm going to give you a little bit of a personal story. After years as a competitive speech and debate coach in education as well as nonprofit, I decided that I was going to branch off into my own public speaking consulting, coaching, and keynote speaking business. Let me tell you, I was so excited and so prepared. By March of 2019, I had my business set up, I was making connections, and I was booking gigs. I was ready to launch my business at the perfect time, which was January 2020. Now, I don't have to give you a modern history lesson to let you know what happened a few months after that. Here I was, an aspiring keynote speaker with paid speaking engagements on the calendar, and I saw all of those speaking engagements get canceled and canceled and canceled and canceled. Not only that, I thought to myself, who's going to want public speaking training when there's no public to speak in front of? Now, I gotta admit, I had my own pity party, I had my own cry fest, and I had my own experience of, I'm done. This is over. Nobody's going to need my services, and I'm basically unemployable.
I mean, look at what I've accomplished. Do you see him? Do you think a depressed person could make this? No.
What, you didn't have a crying self-pity story like that during COVID shutdown? Okay, I believe you. But very quickly, I realized something very important. As businesses and organizations were shifting to a virtual environment, they needed more communication training. I tell you that story because it's really important to understand that public speaking skills are public speaking skills no matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you are standing in front of a live studio audience of 1,000 or you're just recording a video in front of your iPhone. The same skills and strategies to help you communicate with confidence in person are the same skills and strategies that help you communicate with confidence virtually. But there are a few key elements that you need to be mindful of. Engaging a virtual audience is slightly different than engaging a live audience. And today we're going to talk about the strategies to perform a virtual keynote. Now, it's important to state that I'm talking today about keynote speeches. We're talking 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes of you delivering content that is meaningful to your audience. So I'm going to give you 5 different strategies to help you deliver a virtual keynote. Hey, come here. No, just come here. Come a little closer. I got a secret to tell you. If you stay till the end of the video, I have a super secret cheat code for you to use when you are performing keynotes virtually, but you got to stick around till the end. Strategy number 1, take up space, both visually and verbally. Because virtually you are actually in a box, it's important for you to take up space in that box as much as possible. You don't want to be so far away from the audience that you're just a speck on the wall somewhere. You also don't want to be so close that people can count your nose hairs. That would not be great. The rule of thumb is that my entire torso is in the frame. But not only do you get to take up space visually, but you also get to take up space verbally. Yes, within virtual keynotes, there's a lot of opportunities for engagement, but for the most part, it's going to be the you show. Yes, there are going to be some very attentive audience members who are sitting at the edge of their seat just clamoring for every single word that you say. But let's be real. Most virtual meetings, most virtual workshops, everybody's off camera. And so it's really difficult to engage an audience that you don't feel is there. That's why for this particular strategy, you do get to talk a little bit more than you might if you were in person. Strategy number 2, have a clean space. Now, you don't need to have professional equipment, professional background. You don't need to have anything staged. But you do want to make sure that your background is not a distraction. You don't want a messy room in the background or a crying baby in the background or a wild raccoon in the background. You want to make sure that when your audience sees you and they get their first impression of you, that they think that you look professional and then they completely forget about not just your appearance, but the appearance of your background. Side lesson, sometimes babies, cats, raccoons, they do interrupt our virtual speaking engagements. And when that happens, you get to just roll with the punches. Remember, we're human beings with families and obstacles and all sorts of variables in our lives. And when we showcase that to our audience, it provides an authentic moment. Strategy number 3, have backup tech. Look, my internet is awesome until it's not. And sometimes the internet is spotty. Sometimes the tech is not quite working. So always have a backup. Whenever I'm delivering a virtual keynote, not only do I log on my computer, but I also log in on my phone. And if anything happens to my computer, I can access my cellular data and continue my speech as if nothing happened. Strategy number 5, engage the chat. There are many strategies to engage your audience, but the best strategy, especially during a virtual keynote, is to engage the chat. Ask questions like, who resonates with what I just said? Or what questions do you have? Or what other ideas are sparking in your head as I'm speaking this brilliance? Anything to get the chat moving is going to be very, very effective. The final strategy is the most important one, and that is to have fun. Look, y'all, I've been speaking for many, many years, and I always say that the most challenging speaking engagement I have is a virtual keynote where I don't see anyone. Remember, our brains love feedback, and when we are just staring at a computer screen with no one in the audience, it gives us this sense of anxiety because we're not sure if our message is landing. That's why for this element and this element only, you get to make this a little bit more about you. How would you perform if you knew you couldn't fail? The more fun you're having, the more your audience is going to be engaged and also have fun. Hey, thanks so much for watching. And as always, make sure that you hit subscribe. Did you unlock the secret level? I think you did. I think you unlocked the secret level. All right, let's go. Here's some secret level virtual keynote presentational skills. Post-it notes. During a live presentation, it's not always great to have notes of things that you need to remember, but during a virtual presentation, if you put those sticky notes around your computer, no one can see them, and they are there for you to see what comes next. There's one more secret level, but for that, I'm going to head to my computer. Hi, welcome to my Zoom room and my virtual keynote. Now, here is a really important aspect when you are delivering a keynote virtually. Don't share your screen. Yep, I said it. Don't share your screen. If you have presentational notes, awesome. If you have slides, awesome. What I like to do is I like to put a link to those slides or a PDF link in the chat so that people can follow along. Now, the reason you don't want to share your screen is because of this. When I share my screen, all of a sudden I become this little itty bitty little box. And so then the focus is just on the screen. And if I start my slideshow here, whoa. First of all, cool slide, awesome. But you're just looking at the slide. And even though it's me in the picture, you're not connecting with me because you can't really see me that well. And especially when I move on to my first slide, and we're talking about confidence, the focus is on this slide, not on you as a performer. And here's the deal. The audience should always have you as the center performer, not your slides. That's why they're called visual aids. They aid, they help, they support, but they are not your keynote. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that secret level and that you learned some strategies on how to deliver a keynote virtually. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you like it and subscribe to stay up to date on all content on confidence, communication, and storytelling. Until next time, make sure that you come off mute and speak up your story. See you soon.